to start our works. Landscapes, I'd like to invite José Antônio Cepeda da Silva. He is the Conservation Unit Coordinator in the state of Rondônia, and he is going to start his presentation. Welcome to COP27. Welcome to the Amazon. The Amazon will happen in this space during COP27. Thank you, José. Good afternoon. My name is Antônio Cepeda. I work for the government of the state of Rondônia, and I am the coordinator of the conservation unit in the state. The project that we are communities in the state of Rondônia, that somehow, I always say that those who are collecting and extracting from nature, they have been working for the environment for centuries. So it's important to show how this population of rubber tapir is surviving, and the government of the state of Rondônia is fostering this community, increasing its income. What is the reflex on the green landscape? Is that the man of the forest, as they are called, the more they are able to make 50, 40 families, that will guarantee the nature in these areas. It has to do with the sustainable landscapes, with the bioeconomy, with carbon capture. Everything has to do with this community, as we are going to see. It's an economic alternative that will protect the forest. Next slide. So I ask a question here: for how long the traditional communities are seeking? We could imagine the number of years they've been living in this forest. I have this affection for this community. Since 95, when we started consolidating the associations, we were able to work with them. And now we're working together with the state government to implement a better life for them. In 97 and 98, we were talking about the nut sustainable chain, the rub tapper sustainable chain, and now we have the same fight. We are bringing resources for implementing that. And value that you all know in the entire world. Next slide, please. This is a short report of the daily life of extractive worker during the season for the harvest, he is able to complement his income, his family income. And we have several fruits, and we have the rubber, we have the almond chestnut, and we have many communities selling carbon credits, and we have the wood management in the forest as well. So they're working with several products during the year to complement their income. The forest is able to be maintained with the work of the extractive community. This project that we are presenting is of what we want to implement in 2023, and we are looking for resources and the counterpart of the government. And we started in June alongside the community, and now they have this feeling of belonging, and they have added in their daily lives this work. So just pirarucu in Portuguese, and it's considered an exotic fish in some regions. It invaded many regions of the basin in Latin America. You can find Arapaima in other continents, but it's a predator. It's in the top of the chain, and that opened the perception of the extractive worker when Arapaima had occupied part of the rivers in the region. Culturally, just for us to understand, the extractive worker won't eat the Arapaima fish because they don't eat big fish. Culturally, they do not eat big fish. Economic potential, and also it's good for the consumption of protein. So the first experience we are conducting is a pilot experience happening in the reserve of Cautario River and the High Guaparé region. And it's very important because since the Araipama is an invader in these regions, it's adding all the fauna in the river. It's drastically reducing all of the fauna with turtles and other fish and in a drastic way. The Arapaima fish, when it's the season for reproduction, predator. So all the project is connected to the environmental issue and also the social issue because we are going to have the consumption of protein coming from this fish. Next slide, please. This is an illustration of this Arapaima fish eating another fish. It's this photo was enhanced. We were able to film, and it shows the the potential of the predator. So the Arapaima fish, Everywhere it's not native when it's an exotic species in the region of the Amazon. So we must manage, control, and transform it into income to the community. This is a map. This is the Cautaru River Reserve in the state of Rondônia. It comes to 198,000 hectares. It is surrounded by the Cautaru and Iguaporé rivers and the border with Bolivia. For the community. We started the project with this legal concern, technical concern as well. We have the strategy to implement the project. We tried to follow the guidelines of the public prosecution and the literature concerning the management of Arapaima fish. It was all well planned. It's a pilot project. It has the engagement of the community. The community is supporting this idea, and the government is helping with training, capacity building, concerning the biometry, even to identify the males which were captured so that we can monitor what's happening in this control. And the community engagement is very interesting. We bring new concepts about biology, about the environment. This is the process step by step. It's technically well planned. The community itself was able to identify all the lagoons. They know all the region, and they have the fish controlled. And you may see we went lagoon by lagoon to count the fish and to observe the fish in every aspect. This is the capacity building. They were trained in identifying the sex with biometry, and also they were trained to manage the meat. They they are able to cut the fish as well. So the community is trained. And they started understanding and embracing this idea. This is another aspect of the conservative. The the fish as part of their diet because they didn't eat this fish. It was not usual for them. And we started to promote the different recipes to eat the fish because the fish was destroying their environment. So we had cooking courses, and it was well accepted by the community. The city and the surroundings wanted to know more about this tradition. This is part of the monitoring work. As I've told you, the project is about final report. You see different uh, red tapes. It's about the traceability of the meat that is going to go to all the companies that will do the freezing of the meat. So we were able to issue this environmental license for the fishing of this Arapaima fish. And we also identify the different types of fish. And there's something else which is very interesting to mention is that this project is integrated with 40 different entities. Rondônia, CMBio,
I'm sorry. This was the October activity. This was the first fishing activity, and this week they are carrying out the second fishing activity. This is a group of over 20 people that takes turns from logistical activities, the preparation of the meat, eviscerating the meat. This was the first fishing activity in the month of October in partnership with all of their meat. This gave them a lot of motivation of believing this is possible. In 4 effective days of fishing, it gave them an average income of 2,000 reais. So in 2 days, they were able to achieve an income of 2,000 reais each. So when you add that to the other activities like family agriculture, that is an increase to these professionals' income. The investment came from the state government of Rondônia. Is interesting. We have to comment on this type of progress, of course. We believe that from next year on, this is going to finance itself. We are going to try to search for consumers so that we can start selling this product. We did not have the capital to fund the equipment. There were a lot of nets that were seized by Ibama, so Ibama transferred those nets to us. And we worked with those nets that were made available to us that were seized by Ibama. Guys, and with these 19,000 reais, they were able to put together some investments to acquire some better nets. And with those better nets, the group decided to make this investment. The group decided this collectively to invest this money into getting better equipment for their fishing activities. The other challenge, the other institutional challenge for us was the issue of defense. The defense period in the year when they cannot fish. For Pirarucu, the Pirarucu what size of the fish we are trying to remove this defense uh, period in the year. That is a challenge that for us is very important so that these fishermen can continue their activities throughout the year. As I said, this is a very effective relationship that they have with their product. This is a photograph of the fished product inside the freezer. That's the moment that they felt like they belonged. That as well. There were investments from the state of Rondônia, and that was the final product that we could get to. And I conclude my presentation with this photo of the fished product inside the freezer. We expect to give alternatives to the men in the forest so that the men can live off of the forest. That is my final quote. These men have a relationship with the forest. I had this chance to live with these men from the forest, and I could see how strong their relationship with the forest is. It's interesting because they see this as part of their income. Their anxiety in reaching the period of cutting the rubber plants, cutting the rubber trees. There are projects that we're going to describe in another moment for the productive chain of the chestnut tree to make up their incomes and to give opportunities for the rubber tree extractivists. Secretary of the Environment, it's an honor to have you. You can add to my presentation. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to speak because this project was a project that I personally dedicated myself to. The traditional community when I see a situation of an Amazon fish destroying a huge chain of animals. This fish is on the top of the food chain. Fish had a commercial value and he was eating many other animals. We had to do something about it. We had to put together a team with biologists and lawyers. This is a fish that has to breathe, so this fish had to come to the surface of the water. So we did a counting of this fish. We had to contact freezers. We contacted the conservation unit. Demonstrates that this project is feasible for the nature. This fish was destroying the ecosystem, and this project started generating income for the society that is located there. The freezer is located 60 kilometers away from the community. So this fish is frozen. That generated an experimental income, and we're still going to increase a lot the income of this community. This is experimental. As it was said, this income added to the chestnut, added to the rubber tree extractivism. We are still going to support all of those other income sources. I ask you to have a more balanced ecosystem in this region and a more developed society with quality of life and income in that region. And we are going to be very proud if this is better next year. I thank you very much for the floor because this is Dr. Cepeda's presentation, but I would like to give these words because I'm very proud of this project. I have reallocated this and uh, budget and I really love this project. It made my eyes sparkle. I'm very happy with this opportunity. I'm very proud and I would like to thank you all and I'm going to pass the floor back to the speaker. With the riverside community in the Amazon. They work with the pirarucu fishing. If they count 100 pirarucus, they can only fish 30% because the pirarucu is native from the Amazon. For us in Rondônia, pirarucu is exotic. If you count 100, then you can fish 100 of them because it is a principle that the pirarucu has to leave Rondônia. The state for the next year start other projects for sports fishing as well. Many people who fish pirarucu as a sport, they have to catch the fish and then release the fish. Now in Rondônia, they can catch the fish and keep the fish. That's going to be an attraction as well for Rio Caltário, that is one of the most beautiful places. This is allowed as well in in Rondônia.
Okay, we will let Jessica to respect on that. That means that it will be a really good answer. So Franco, I'll start with you then. What are those challenges that you're confronting? And again, it's not only related to climate. I think that it's the challenge of the finance that needs to progress towards sustainability, right?
Gonzalo, many challenges are on this road because it's something structural, and any structural is easy. We need to understand clear which is the complexity of this. Because it's new approach, just
in several regions, not only Rondônia.
over the market. It's a change.
Are on the continent. So
It's
that
change.
shows the present
And the market is
use
gonna
of the Amazon basin.
grow
However,
the
it
society
does
of the
not
community
occur
and the
naturally in
behaviors
its
and
entirety. Condonia is an example
the way that they
of the
make
state
decisions.
where the fish is native only from the
They-
northern area, but
So-
for various reasons, today
One big
the
issue
fish
here
is
was, for
considered
example,
in
our first conversation with the
regional
vice president
Condonia.
of Colombia, one specific
Are another arrangement
about to measure
that show
the
the
environmental and
of
social
human
impact of the projects of
that are
our
considered
customers.
natural
Because
being
we
carried
are
out
clear, man.
since
When principles is an commitment from the sector
work is being
the right
carried out
assessments
at the
of environmental
exactly
and social
outside of
aspects.
the market where the most
Super
striking
just
example
projects
of the
of because
inflation
the legislation was amazing and that so the conversation was
the government of Rondônia
you are
has
thinking that by Colombia
the
won't be
traditional community to seek the potential of
we lost a lot of projects.
of
I say
income
maybe not.
for traditional
We could
residents
just to
involved in
advise our customers about the right way and to include the right projects in our portfolio because at the end is something linked with risks and opportunities. But what's complex? Because it's complex moving these kind of issues in a financial institution. It was the same in each new innovation about credit lines, green bonds, and other aspects. And right now we have really interesting challenges because this agenda is moving fast. Complex conversation right now, conversations about different issues. And each of them is complex than other, but at the end, we are moving in the right way. We are just structuring the right business cases and offering a new approach to our customers. Our customers are really well on this approach, and we need to build more trust in order to work together with public sector on this agenda. Is other challenge how to build the bridge. Trust is fundamental here and how to work together because at the end is the same goal. The public sector is achieving some specific goals in the social and environmental agenda, and financial sector and private sector is doing the same. But in one order is a public asset, and in other way maybe it's profitability. That's it.
But also meaning that we need to apply every single sector. And I realized, Jessica, that you are
assistant of climate governance, and I'm going to talk about the climate governance policies. And we have a guest to participate in this panel. Thank you, Letícia, for the invitation. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this conversation with the consortium, with the governors from the Amazon, to share our experience in the Getúlio Vargas Foundation about the challenges and advances for the climate change issue in Brazil. And also, I'd like to talk to you about the ongoing projects in the state of Rondônia. Thank you. I'm going to start speaking about the climate governance. The state nowadays has a law that is the policy for climate governance, and the state legislation for climate governance that was created in December 2018. And today we are in the phase of implementing the different instruments for the governance system. This is a part of the law 4437. The law, as I've said, it has a system. And within this state system of climate governance and environmental services, we have different tools. We have the climate fund, and we have resources for this climate fund. This system has three stages: the climate change forum, the scientific committee, and the management board. This law was created through several public hearings within the state with our traditional communities, the Black traditional communities, the indigenous people, different peoples, and we had the full participation with transparency, dialogue with the society as a whole. And from then on, we were able to create different instruments. And the forum that was created this year, we had advances. We've summoned the forum members. We had 90% of the members participating, members from the civil society, from the traditional peoples, the representative of traditional peoples. We had representatives of indigenous peoples, private institutions, municipal institutions, and also federal and state institutions. We have the full participation of the representatives and the public as a whole. We also established a dialogue in order to define some instruments and new programs, and the law itself describes how to act. And the next stage is the creation of the steering committee. So we summon the different members, we define the different names. So we create the board, and then from the plans and programs from the law, we can create with civil society different actions for fostering bioeconomy and promoting the life of those living in the Amazon. Besides, we've advanced in different fronts in the state. We have two RED programs in the state. The first one is the project of Preto Jacundá River, which started in 2012. We are able to see the changes in the community, the different actions and instruments and public policies that were developed. So the community is able to develop all of that today. And we have this RED project at the Caltário River with this different modality. It's the voluntary carbon market with the payment for environmental services. So this is a new RED program that is started in 2020. We are implementing different instruments that were defined with the community itself. And it's important to highlight that all of the projects were fostered because the community requested to the government. Then the government, with different partners and private institutions, developed this public consultation concerning the different activities. One of the criteria of the RED is to maintain the culture. So the government is able to follow all of the process so that the extractive work is maintained in terms of flour and also almond and nuts. And the project has advanced a lot, both of the projects. And these projects are expected to last for 30 years. So we have one which started in 2012 and the other that started in 2020. So I'm going to explain about the other projects and different phases as well. As I've explained, they are 30-year projects, and some of the criteria they must include is the protection and conservation of the reserve, respecting the management rules and the management plan and utilization plan and the life plan as well, because we've developed all these plans, and engaging the community as well. So these are some of the components of the project. We have the zero deforestation, the restoration of degraded lands. We have the program for the extension of rural development, the monitoring of biodiversity, and the environment education. These are the different components of the project, and they've been implemented in both projects, and the communities are 100% engaged in both projects. Some spoilers. Now we're back.
Tá bom.
Okay.
Então, eu estava falando um pouquinho da
So I was talking about the Jacondá Preto River. I'm going to explain one by one. The other one that we have that is in the Cantário River is a RED project and the modality of payment for environmental services. So the communities are receiving payment from the project directly.
vamos iniciar com o projeto
Let's talk about
esse projeto é uma parceria
this project, which is a partnership with Biofilica with Asmorex. That is the Association of Preto Jacondá River in partnership uh, with the Rio Terra Study Center and Ambipar. They are partners in restoration projects with biodiversity and so on.
E aí, esse projeto de rede, como eu informei, ele
And this RED project has started in 2012.
tem 95.300 hectares total.
This reserve has 95,300 hectares,
Hectares.
and the project is implemented in 94,289 hectares. We we have at 273 species of flora engaged, and also 195 species of fauna engaged in this biodiversity.
A intenção desse projeto
The intention of this project is
30 anos, 30,
that in 30 years, we are able to have 35,398 hectares of prevented deforestation in total.
então como que era antes
So,
antes do projeto?
how was the community before the project
2011.
in 2011?
Havia muito esse desmatamento,
There was a lot of deforestation.
na comunidade.
The management didn't return to the community. We had a low level of social organization. This is a deforestation area from years ago. I'm going to show you how it is today. We didn't have a community structure, and the community was not united. Let's wait a little bit. I'm having technical issues.
Tá, gente, a gente teve a gente teve problema técnico aqui.
We had a technical problem, but Meanwhile, I'm going to explain with no slides about the project.
Hoje, o projeto
Today, the project
da empresa de Jatobá, ele já é bem de desenvolvimento com as comunidades.
that was
Desde
started in
que
2012 is very
o
much
projeto
engaged
ele
and
informa
within the
a
community.
associação
The
que
project
existe
is
uma
sent
associação
for for the association, and the association uses the project as a common good for everyone. So every time the carbon is audited with all the criteria that the RED project must comply with, the association with the board, with the steering committee, and the agreement of the community,
construção de casa, energia nas
they
casas,
have
eles têm energia,
houses being
casa
built.
equipamentos,
They have
toda
energy,
energia solar no bairro.
solar
Hoje,
energy in the community.
a
They
estrutura
were able
da
to
associação,
dig
ela
wells,
tem
and the structure of the association today
a nível de
is
informática, a
able
nível
to
de
promote
educação, de
training on
recursos
IT
humanos. Então, hoje,
and
a
different
comunidade está crescendo
educational
e é uma comunidade também
educational
unida,
resources, and it's a very united
dentro da reserva.
community. When you enter the reserve and you talk to the community members, you're able to see
Das comunidades. Então,
the
mesmo
the life of the community that has improved a lot. So with the resources that are coming for the association and
é utilizado para
is used for their common good,
eles ainda
they
fazem
still
castanha,
are
eles
able
têm
to
farinha,
collect nuts. They work with by
para subsistência própria.
manufacturing flour,
Agora
and
eu vou mostrar
they
para vocês
also
como que esse
produce coffee.
como que é a associação hoje.
So when the slides are back, I'm going to show you the different houses and how the life has changed within the community.
O outro projeto que nós temos
Another
é o
project that
trabalho
we
voluntário.
have is the Caltario River project.
Essa
It's a
modalidade ela
30-year
foi
project.
concebida e
This
foi
modality
implementada através do
was
pagamento de serviços
designed
sociais.
with the
Então,
payment
hoje,
of environmental
são mais de
services.
1.000
So today
famílias que
we
recebem
have
ajuda
around
social
1,000 families receiving one minimum wage
o que eles já fazem.
to do
Eles
what
já
they
produzem
used to do,
castanha, açaí,
the
açaí,
extractive
eles
work of nuts
colhendo,
and almond,
dentro do projeto
making
de
flour. So
desmatamento,
they still do what they usually did,
isso.
but within this RED project, and they receive money for that. So we have a company investing in this resource. This carbon was not audited. This is a voluntary project.
Investindo para reduzir a
So
emissão
companies are investing to reduce the CO2 emissions. And today, this project, this 30-year project of Caltario River is in different phases. Today, the project has hired people of the community itself
educador ambiental,
for environmental education and also the fire brigade. And the project itself is bringing the sustenance for those living there.
um pouquinho do slide para eu mostrar um pouquinho para vocês a imagem de como que esse projeto ele
I needed the slide to show you the image of how the project is being developed. And those who invest there is Perma Global. They are the ones that are there. They live there to follow all those activities, the reduction of deforestation.
Então, Daniel, você quer falar alguma coisa?
So, Danielle, would you like to say something? Would you like to make a comment?
Aqui nós temos o ônus de sermos os pioneiros. Como nós estamos
Here we
abrindo
have the sponsors of this project, since we are creating this first dialogue, and the governors of the Amazon Consortium. We would like to show the sponsors here. The first question that I have, Leticia, is it would be great to hear from you a little bit about the reality of these populations within the extractivist reserves and how exactly these communities received resources which help organizing their infrastructure and work on their production and their sustainability. So how did the money arrive and how is this money benefiting this community? I think these are the questions that I would like to hear from you on the answer. And after that, I'm going to talk about the work that is being carried out by FGV and how that could have an impact on the Amazon and the development of the region. The images that I'm going to show now are from a few months ago. Now, in Rio Preto, Jacondá, they receive money after their credit is verified. We carried out an auditing on the carbon that was emitted and that was avoided. This research then arrives directly at the account of the association and is distributed among the partners, and the association receives the percentage according to the division that was decided. For example, a house that was built, expenses with internet. The association was built with the money from the credit project. All this infrastructure was built with the resource from the verified and the sold carbon. So this resource, this value with the credited carbon was invested in financial management within the association itself. It was invested in the community. Everybody here is a member in the community. Everyone is involved in the hedge project. These are images of the biodiversity conservation and monitoring. This is a picture of the solar energy project within the community. In the corner, you can see how the house used to be. It used to be a wooden house with no infrastructure, and today, this is the level of the house. Let me show you in the next slide. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the clicker. This is the house of the community members. So today the money is invested in the infrastructure. We also have the PSA, which is the direct payment to the community. These are the benefits that the project brought: purchase of vehicles, fostering the harvesting of crops, also some infrastructure that was built in the city. I would just like to explain a little bit of the audit that was carried out to the credit that was sold. We had an audit with the community, with the association, and SIDA, also the sewage system. to understand how the project went. The last verification happened from 2016 to 2020. We also have another project for the Cautari River, which is designed in a different way. This is a different project that does not go directly to the association. From the demand of the community members, they are the ones that are going to define the way that they're going to receive this money, the way that this money is going to be implemented. This project happens as well in the Cautari River. This project does not involve the association. The project is carried out with the community members themselves, with the families. The families are the ones that decide how they are going to utilize the resources. Today, as I said before, we have 100 families that are receiving the benefits of approximately one minimum wage. They're going to receive this minimum wage throughout 30 years approximately. They are already receiving this resource besides the annual investment. This annual investment is different. The communities decide the way that they are going to use this resource. I'm going to explain a little bit of what was already used. We had three investments throughout 2020, 2021. Well, it was approximately 250,000 a year, and this year as well. So, as I said, throughout 30 years, they are going to receive this investment of one minimum wage per family. In the community, we have the extraction of rubber and chestnuts. We have high levels of chestnuts in there, so there were some projects fostering the economy, and today we don't have actions to implement those projects in the Cautari River communities. So this project here already had some benefits to the community. This carbon was not verified yet, so the company is investing and there was no selling of this carbon. So when this carbon is sold, the percentage is going to be divided among the community members and added to what they already receive. Today, the community has 17 community members, one project manager, one coordinator of rural extension, one coordinator of monitoring, one assistant of rural extension, 8 environmental monitors, 6 first aid technicians, and 2 specialists in animals. There are other benefits to the community as well that I'm going to explain on this slide. But I already mentioned that, but I'm going to skip the slide actually. As I already informed, the investment is annual. So in 2020, the community decided that they were going to use the investment, which is the value that is related to the contract that was signed. The contract was signed in September 2020, so the investment was received right after the contract was signed. So in 2020, the community decided that this investment was going to be used for the mechanical preparation of the soil in production areas. This is decided in a council with all community members. It's their decision. The states does not influence in anything. The company that is investing also does not influence in anything. Only the community members decide. In 2021, it was the internet installation. There was no internet, there was no drinkable water. So today they already have this evolution due to this investment. And this year they decided to acquire solar plates, 7 harvesters, water tanks, and to build a community convenience place, uh, a room. They decided to have a community conviviality room. I've already been to this community and talked to all of the community members to understand what they think of the project, if the project is viable for them, if this is what the community wants. And I went there to understand. And in 2021, I went to a community made up of one house, but it is considered a community. In 2021, we arrived there at 7 p.m. and there was no electrical energy. And I wondered, in a world where we live today, thinking in a community about technology, how can a community like that not have electrical energy? There was no fridge. They were sitting down in the dark, waiting for the food to be ready for them to have dinner with a lot of mosquitoes. So it was a community that did not exist practically in 2021. So the project brought evolution to them. So you can think about the importance of electrical energy in the world for those who live inside the Amazon. This project is very well designed. And through instruments, through structured governance, through a more implemented technology, the advancement is very feasible. The advancement is good for those who live there. In this case, and of course, there might be other cases within the community, in the state of Rondônia, we have more than 40 conservation areas. This is one case that exists within the state of Rondônia. So the intention of the state of Rondônia is to structure this governance and foster climate funding projects related to bioeconomy so that the people who live inside the Amazon could be assisted in the same manner. Today, that's what we do for a living. That's what we do to face wildfires, deforestation. We are advancing in the sense to raise funds, raise international funds, so that we can start in these areas that still don't have hedge funds, and so that we can give a better quality of life for those who live in these communities. These are some benefits of the project to nature, the restoration and monitoring programs, and this is the project in figures, how this project is happening in fact. We have 30 years of project starting in 2020 with 146 hectares protected, 20 direct formal jobs, 235 hectares to be restored through several restoration projects, 94 families benefited in 6 communities. But I think this number is outdated. I think it's 100 families already. We have 27.2 million invested in 5 years, 2.8 million of PSA in 2 years of project. This is already what they are receiving in terms of investments, 2.2 million of contribution in 2 years to Fundo Clima, to the Climate Fund. This project donates to the climate fund that we have, the investment of 2 million for environmental restoration, and 550,000 were already used for economic fostering for the community. We have other programs like environmental restoration, rural extension, environmental education, and human resources. And these are the community members that receive the environmental payments and that are directly involved in the hedge project. Just to make a comment, the state is now updating the prevention plan and control of sustainable alternatives to the deforestation and wildfires in Rondônia. So we are now raising funds and resources so that we can establish goals and that we can fulfill these goals for achieving new funders and new financiers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leticia. It's a pleasure to take part in this dialogue with you. And it's a pleasure to get to know the work and the project that is being carried out in Rondônia. I would like to make a few reflections and some comments about your presentation and start our dialogue. I start with a few assumptions that I would like to highlight. The first one has to do with the position of the Amazon and the position of this consortium represented here in such an important event for the climate of the world. I follow the work of the Amazon directly and indirectly, at least since 2015, so almost 20 years. And I took part of the first forum of the Amazon governors. And at the time, as the Secretary of Sustainable Development, I helped stimulating this governors consortium that gained traction and became so relevant. If we walk around the fair and look at the different booths, it's impressive the relevance of the biodiversity and the forest agenda took in the international discussions. And it may be the first time that I deal with the Amazon, and the Amazon is in fact being looked at by the world, not only as a problem, but also as an opportunity.
Interessado em pensar formas de apoiar a proteção e o desenvolvimento
The
sustentável de
entire
áreas.
world is interested in fostering regions which are strategic for the planet, especially in the Amazon. So I praise your initiative, and I'm very optimistic with this reality that is being open to fund sustainable projects in the Brazilian Amazon. So this is the first observation, and I hope that this COP is a new, uh, a new open door for these resources. I am the coordinator of the Bioeconomy Observatory in the Getúlio Vargas Foundation. It was created 1 year ago at the eve of Glasgow with the objective to create a supporting structure for Brazil from our local realities so that we can promote the green advance and the green transitions. If we observe the Brazilian and world challenges to promote the sustainable development, in which way can we accelerate this task in Brazil, creating support so that Brazil is able to achieve this mission? As the observatory, we are helping to create the infrastructure of bioeconomy. We know from the debates that there's a tension and a concern with bioeconomy. But when we ask ourselves what it means in practice, there are doubts, there are challenges. And what's important for us to understand about the meaning of bioeconomy is not only for the academia and intellectual understanding, is what we can do in practice, what the public and private institution will fund to develop local initiatives and policies. And in Brazil, in the world, we it's not clear what must be supported with funding and resource transferring. And the foundation we've been studying in the last years and months to understand how the funding schemes work. We normally refer to that as the carbon market. So we analyzed the world and Brazil to understand how this carbon market works. And from this extensive mapping, we observed all the projects generating carbon credits in Brazil, where they are located, who is taking care of these projects, who is generating the credit, where it is certified with what methodology. And from this extensive study, we had good news and news which were not so good. The good news were that, as you've mentioned, this is a reality. Brazil has projects happening in the reality showing how it is possible with these funds that are created by companies or international funds to create local communities to generate this minimal basic development. And the bad news or the concerning news is that we have very few projects and very little resources for a region that the entire world considers uh, a great opportunity and challenge for the planet. If it's true that the greatest richness of biodiversity is in the Amazon, if it's true that we have all these carbon compensation funds, why isn't this money coming for the Brazilian Amazon? And what we observed is that there are three bottlenecks that we must understand and face so that this funding can come to where the natural resources are. This financing, they follow this methodology that is limited. In practice, one international institution called VR defines this list of definitions, and these criteria must be fulfilled for the institution to capture the resources. But these methodologies are not adjusted to the reality, as in the case of the Brazilian Amazon, and the cost for you to assess these funds and approve your methodology is very high, and very few projects are able to come to practice. So the first barrier is that only a few organizations are able to pass through this stage of being approved by different methodologies by VR. So if we want to open this agenda for other organizations to raise these funds, we must democratize this list of methodologies which says who is going to receive the carbon resources. Only a few institutions have access to them nowadays. You've just mentioned two successful projects, but these are a few projects in this ocean of projects that could be possible if the challenges were adapted for the local reality. And the second challenge is that this funding today is very limited by a set of international companies which are interested in showing to the consumer the financer that they are fulfilling some sustainability objectives. But if all of the companies are willing to receive credits that are connected the to the forest management, and this is very important because a great deal of the resources that is destined to the region in exchange of preserving the forest is funding the sustainable development of the communities. But would it be possible? It would be possible and desirable that the sustainable activities could also be elected for the international funding. For instance, extractive communities do not generate credits in the carbon market. And we have sustainable cattle raising and farming that is complementing the income of people are not generating carbon credits. Example of fishing cultures are not generating carbon credits. If the objective is to fund the creation of green richness uh, and resources, it would be fair that these technologies could acknowledge that the local reality could capture resources in order to develop in a sustainable way in its reality. And these methodologies today and these rules of the games are limiting the access to the resources. And we know that there's a lack of capacity building, a lack of technical knowledge to play this game in the carbon market that is still advancing, but it's working based in high complexity and international standards. And there's a great challenge in Brazil that is to train and build the capacity of private and public leaders so that they can have more access and opportunities to manage these instruments, which are complex and sophisticated, opening the doors to talk to the world and capturing resources to fund their activities. So my observations are the Amazon must have resource and income that a region with over 25 million people living in very low socioeconomical levels, it's very hard in a sustainable and believable way to maintain a sustainable project that is permanent. And for that, we should have resources. For that, the world is promising resources. But for this resource to land at the Brazilian reality and at the Amazon soil, we must have this tropical structure that enable methodologies adapted to our reality, enabling this sustainable production with this set of technical instruments so that people can use these resources so that the Amazon will dialogue with the world, presenting itself as a great promise and source of resources and income and future for the development of the community of the region of Brazil and for the welfare of Brazil and the world. So this is what I hope is going to happen. I support the Amazon unconditionally. I'm very happy to see that this initiative to create a forum that had this role of putting together the local leaders to show the potential of the region is not only a reality, but is here today at the center of the planet discussing projects that can generate great results over the years. I congratulate the state of Rondônia. I congratulate you for this work, and I thank you for the opportunity of sharing some ideas. And I hope we have new opportunities to dialogue about the sustainability of the Brazilian Amazon. Thank you. This is the intention that we are able, through these success cases that we have in the States, that we are able to show to the world that this is possible. When we talk about a forum, people believe it's constructive, but they have no idea how far it's going to go. The government of Rondônia is able to achieve and foster many causes. This is part of our policy to implement these projects, but that's what you said. We are only able to implement the projects with funding. And the funding should get there, should get to the people who are in need. And this is the COP of implementation. This is the motto of this COP. In the past, we've established goals, commitments, but now these projects must uh, come to reality. We know that a continent as Africa, with over 500 million people, are below the line of poverty and with no access to electric power. We can only talk realistically about sustainability and development if there's funding, if there are resources to create the conditions so that in Africa and in the countryside of Brazil, the communities can stand up with the product, with their own work, becoming the guardian and protector of the forest. So to conciliate the challenge of climate and sustainable development is the key for success for this COP. And this is an example of how this is possible with this project, with these projects in the state of Rondônia and others that are being managed in other states of the legal Amazon. So I am very optimistic with the perspective of the region, and I hope that after the governors come, we can resonate even more these initiatives and that the great international fundings are observing the Amazon with more generosity, with more interest, so that this money can come to the region. So I thank you all for your presence.